Hi Dollar Divas, welcome to Behind the Vanity. I'm Jessica. So today I just kind of thought it would be fun to take one of my high-end palettes and try to see what is in my Dollar Tree eyeshadow collection to kind of come close to duping a high-end palette. But yeah, I just thought this would be fun and I was really curious, and like I said, I'd like to try to maybe do this more. So anyways, if you're new to my channel, and especially if you love Dollar Tree oriented makeup and haul content or Dollar Tree content of all kinds, I do hope that you will hit that subscribe button as well as that bell notification, because I do love to make a lot of Dollar Tree oriented content. And that is probably how you found me anyway with this video. So yeah, you are in the right place for sure. And of course, if you're returning, thank you so much for returning. So yeah, I will have my entire Dollar Tree makeup and haul playlist linked down below so you can binge watch all of my Dollar Tree oriented videos after you watch this one, of course. So today we are going to dupe the Urban Decay Naked Reloaded palette. And yeah, like I said, I would love to do this more often, but we're gonna start here. So of course, you know, this isn't gonna be an exact thing. Sometimes all you need is to dupe a few shades that really stand out to you, or kind of dupe the vibe of the palette. And the point is to show you that you may not necessarily have to run out and buy something more expensive, especially if you have a lot of eyeshadow, and it could even be a lot of Dollar Tree eyeshadow. So yeah, so we're just gonna kind of dupe the feel and the vibe of this palette using some stuff that I already had in my Dollar Tree makeup collection. So if you wanna see what shades and what products I use to dupe this palette, definitely keep on watching. So of course, this is what the palette looks like. So let's go ahead and start with the shade Bribe. Now, I am not the best at swatching. So there is that shade right there. So this is the LA Colors Trio in Sunflower, and these, actually all of these shades I use. So that's like a quarter of the palette because it's got 12 shades. Of course, I'm going with this lightest shade right here, and let's put it underneath. I'm gonna put the dupes underneath and the original above. See, very similar. You know, the LA Colors ones are probably a little bit brighter, but really on the eyelid, they're gonna pretty much look the same. That's what you have to remember too. Swatches are one thing, the eyelid is a whole other story. So we have this shade here, Barely Baked. It's kind of like a soft gold. So that is what that looks like. Doesn't show up great on my skin, but just because it matches my skin so much. So I'm going with the LA Colors Trio. This is in Lotus. And out of everything I had, I thought this one here was the best. There were several golds I could have chosen from. Now, of course, it's actually a little bit of a nicer shade. It's a little bit more gold, a little darker, but you know, it kind of gives us an overall feel, you know what I mean? And that's really what we're going for today. So next shade here, Angel Fire, is kind of like a pink shade, like a metallic pink. So that is that shade. So I have one of these 6-shade eyeshadow palettes from LA Colors. This is in the shade Hot, and I was thinking that second shade in would be kind of similar. You know, and the point of this isn't necessarily to save money. I know I'm going into like a few palettes. I will go into a few palettes. The point is that if you have some of these shades, you can probably create a couple of the looks from this palette. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. It's just kind of duping a vibe, like I said. Now this shade here is a little bit more pinky, but honestly, you could probably mix the first two and come up with a very similar shade. So the next shade here, we get creative. This is the shade Retro. And it's kind of like a pink, kind of a coral salmon type of a shade. And to me, it was the shade that stood out to me in the palette. Very salmon colored. So I'm getting a little creative with this because I did not have a pink eyeshadow that was like matte. So I did find this at the Dollar Tree. It is the Wet n Wild Color Icon blush in pearlescent pink, and really probably any pink blush would do. But yeah, you don't have a pink eyeshadow? Dig into your blush collection. I mean, get creative, you know what I mean? Makeup is makeup. So there you go. That is a very close dupe for that shade. That's what we do here on this channel. We get creative with Dollar Tree everything. You know what I mean? That's half the fun of it, right? Now these two shades here are kind of very similar. So I kind of have a dupe for both of them, and it's these shades Reputation and Burn. They look a little bit more different on camera than they do in person, but I'm gonna go with Reputation. So that there is the first one, Reputation. It's kind of a shimmery, I don't even know how you describe it, kind of a coppery pink. And so I'm going back into that Hot palette and I'm going into this third shade right here. See, it's a little lighter, but it has a general feel, you know what I mean? Now going into the one next to it, the shade Burn. There is the shade Burn. Very pretty. It's like a darker, I'm gonna go into this shade here, that same palette. And there you go. It's a little brighter, but you know, we have an overall feel kind of going on, you know what I mean? So now we have the shade Endgame right here, and just a very rich, kind of chocolate brown, matte. It's a color that's kind of in every palette. So for this one, I'm gonna go into, this is also a 6-pan palette. This is in Sunset Break, and it's the one that looks like this right here. And I'm going, of course, into that top brown, just a really matte shade, and in a lot of ways, it's actually better pigmented than the other one. See that? There is very similar. Again, on the eyes, you're not gonna notice a difference at all. Then for the shade Dreamweaver, it's the one right next to it. That was another shade that really, retro in this shade right here really stood out to me. And it's kind of an unusual shade. It's kind of a shimmery brown. So there it is right there. So I'm going back into that same palette. So I'm going to that one right there in the middle. It's a little bit more on the purpley side, but I think ultimately it's the closest thing that I have. It's got a little shimmer in it. See, it's really very close. Then the next shade is Distilled. It's kind of a lighter, kind of a shimmery brown. So there is that shade right there. We're going back into the palette here, Hot. I'm going to go into that shade right there. So we've used 4 shades out of this palette right here. And it's a little bit warmer, but very similar, just a shimmery kind of a brown. You know, you take all these browns here, you wouldn't know what was high-end or what was Dollar Tree. Then these 3 shades right here are just very easy. So I mean, look at the Sunflower palette in comparison to those 3 there. A lot of these shades you have. So we're gonna go into the shade Bucked right here. It's just kind of a brown, like a matte brown. This one I did a little bit of an unusual thing. And like I said, think outside of the box. I went into this little Broadway eyebrow kit. I have the shade Dark Brown, and I went into that last shade right there. You know, and it's a little different, but it's still, you know, a brown is a brown. Ultimately, it's a little cooler. But if you were traveling and you wanted to get a neutral look, you could just use your eyebrow kit. You know, it's all about thinking outside the box, you know what I mean? And then these last 2 shades here are coming from the Sunflower palette. So those are the 2 shades there. So for the most part, you know, we've used the majority of a couple palettes to dupe the overall feel of this palette. So of course I'm going into these 2 shades right here. So there they are, you know, very similar. So these are our final swatches, and are they perfect? No, but does it dupe the overall effect and some of them on the eye? Are you gonna notice? Absolutely not. It encourages you to use your collection. So we pretty much use these 4 palettes, an eyebrow kit, and a blush. You know, and like I said, this is just using the Dollar Tree eyeshadow that I have. I do not own all of it from the Dollar Tree. So I just went into my collection and took a palette I already had and just wanted to see how I could get the vibe of that palette. And you know, we were able to kind of get an overall feel for the Naked Reloaded palette, you know, using $6 worth of makeup that you probably already have. So like I said, I just thought this would be fun. I've always wanted to try this, and I'm wanting to do more of this in the future. So if you enjoyed this video, show me you did by hitting that like button. Also, do not forget about my Dollar Tree Makeup and Haul playlist with all of my Dollar Tree oriented videos. I will have it down below in the description box as well as up here, so you can binge watch all of my Dollar Tree oriented videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.